Hey, it's Lauren with Bargain Bead Box, and today we are going to be making a necklace from April's Bargain Bead Box, the Blooming Branches collection, that uses the Amethyst Tree of Life pendant. We're going to do a beaded segment on each side, then we're going to come down here to our sparkly tree charms and break it off into a double strand segment in the middle. So this is a very different design from last week's. It's going to be a lot more symmetrical. It's going to come together a lot faster. So let's get started. Alright, so from the box, we're going to be using the leaf bead caps, our 8mm Dolomite Mountain Jade rounds, the 3x2mm crystals in Grapevine Mix, our Amethyst Tree of Life pendant here, our bumpy rondelle spacers, the 2-piece rhinestone tree charms, and the 4x3mm Malaysia Jade faceted rondelles. The only things I'm using that are not from the box are some basic findings, and these are from the Bead Box Bargain store. We've got Find 1101, which are our crimp beads. We're using two different sizes of jump rings, 4 and 6mm. These are ring 111 and ring 121. We're using these clamshell bead tips. They are Find 2133. And then I'm using Tog 611 for my clasp. We are currently out of stock. We're getting more in. This is for my personal collection. I really like a magnet clasp, but you can totally use the toggle from the box as well. The beautiful leaf toggle will work just fine also. All right, let's do this. I'm gonna go ahead and cut my cord. So this is a 7-strand 0.35mm tiger tail wire. It is item number F-Wire 591 on the Bead Box Bargains website. I like the 0.35mm for this because the 2 strands we're doing at the bottom are a little bit thinner. So I like to have it be a little more flexible, but it is still heavy enough to handle the beaded sections on the side. So I'm going to cut probably about 8 inches. That's going to be a little longer than I need, but that's fine to begin with. And I am going to start off with one of my clamshell bead tips and one of my crimp beads. And we're just going to get this ready to string. So we are going to make 2 separate beaded segments, and then we're going to connect them using the little Tree of Life charms, and then we'll do one more beaded segment on both sides. So I'm going to start by making the lowermost beaded segment, which is going to be made primarily of our faceted rondelles here, and we're also going to use some of the bumpy spacer beads in with those. So I'm going to grab those too. All right. So let me grab my crimping pliers here, which I have buried, of course. Here they are. And I'm just going to do my little crimping tube. And because this isn't a very heavy strand, I'm not going to bother looping my wire back around and through the crimp bead. I'm just going to try to give it a good smush here. I'm going to shape it a little bit with these, and then I'm just going to smush it with my chain nose pliers because it doesn't have to be gorgeous. It's about to be covered up forever and ever. So I will just trim the edge. I know it's terrible to cut tiger tail wire with scissors, but I promise you these are like 97-cent scissors. They will be fine. So these clamshells, I'm just going to stick around back the other side. One thing to watch out is these have sort of a slot at the bottom rather than just a 1mm hole. So make sure that you're holding the crimp bead perpendicular to that slot. Once you close it up, it's not going to have any chance of coming out. So it's just, so I don't love the slot at the bottom, but I do like that these are smaller overall. So for things like this, I'm going to just gently close my clamshell now to hide the crimp bead. For things like this necklace, these smaller clamshells, while they can be a little bit more of a pain, they do end up making it look nice and neat when we get 4 of them connected to our tree charm there. Okay, so there my end is finished. You can see now that it's squished, it's not gonna come out of the clamshell. All right, I'm going to get my rondelles out, and my strand is already open because I used some of them in last week's design. So we'll get a bunch here, and I'm going to dump out my spacers. So we are going to string 5 segments of a bumpy rondelle followed by 5 pieces of the faceted rondelles. So we're going to go 1 rondelle, get the little leaf out of the way, and then 5 faceted rondelles. And we're going to repeat this pattern 5 times and put another bumpy rondelle at the end. So I'm just going to get started with that. This necklace is going to come together very quickly, especially for how elegant it looks. So I really like designs like that where I can just sit down and get it done, but still be very happy with the outcome. So there we go. We're just going to repeat this pattern 4 more times for a total of 5 segments. All right, so looking at this, I actually think I'm going to do 7. I want it to be a little bit longer, so I'm just going to string on 2 more segments here, and you can absolutely play with this design, make it however long or short you want it to be. It is totally up to you. I think the most important part and the thing I really like about this, I like the distance between the first and second strand when you have them connected. So however long you decide to bead, just make sure to do your next segment and make it shorter so that you will have that nice delineation between the two when you go to wear your piece. All right, so I'm doing my 7th segment here. Yeah, this is going to be nice. This is going to be what I want. And then I'm going to double check and count just to make sure because, yeah, sometimes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yep, that looks right. All right. So at this point, I'm going to take my amethyst pendant. And I'm just going to go ahead and slide it right on there. This will have a sort of a free-flowing effect. It doesn't have anything to hold it exactly in the middle, but I'm playing around with a lot of different ways to keep it in the middle. I didn't love any of them. I think it looks better just kind of free floating there. And we are going to finish this strand up with another clamshell bead tip and another crimp bead. And get a couple of these out so don't need to rustle that bag again because we are going to be using several. And when I'm doing the end, I like to open the clamshell bead tip up all the way so that I can get right up against it. Now remember, we've got that slot there. It can be a little irritating to work with on this with the crimp beads, but I do really like the size of these clamshells. Here we go. I'm going to just string on my crimp bead now. And then I am going to see if I can shape it a little bit. It's a little larger of a crimp bead than these pliers were really made to manipulate. But they still kind of get it a little more of a rounded shape before I just go ahead and squish it. All right, and I want to make sure I leave a little bit of space so that I still have good play in my strand, but I don't want to have a big gap. So that looks pretty good. Let me go ahead and trim it off. And now I am going to carefully start bending my clamshell back over that crimp. So here goes. Again, trying to hold the crimp perpendicular to the slot on the bottom of these. They're a little fussy, but for the smaller size and the finished product, I think it's worth it. Okay. Finish closing that up. There we go. Get that really down inside the bead tip. Squish it gently with my chain nose pliers. I don't want to like dent it up, but I do want to get it closed. All right, there we are. So here is our first segment. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to attach both ends to our rhinestone tree charms. So we get those out, the scraps away from the table. There we go. And I'm going to use a jump ring to attach it to the lowermost hole here on either side of the trunk. It's not really a hole, it's more just a opening in the pattern, but it works great for our purposes. And I'm going to use my smaller jump rings for that. The ring 111, let me get a couple of those out. All right, now comes the fussy part, working with tiny jump rings. Yay, these are, I think, a 22 gauge, so they're pretty easy for me to just open with my hands, but I'm not always as good at closing them, so we will see how this goes. All right, so we're gonna go on the lowermost. Think about my pattern here. Hopefully I got the right one. Yeah. Lowermost, so for the left side, that'll be on the left of the tree trunk, and on the right side, it'll be on the right of the tree trunk. We're just gonna close that up. And I didn't do a fabulous job, but it'll be all right. We'll just give it a squeeze. There we go. Okay. And now we're going to go on the right side of this one. Here we are. All right. I'm just going to go through the hole in that bead tip and then through the tree trunk. Or next to the tree trunk, I suppose, technically. All right. Okay, so now we're going to make the second strand, and we are just going to string some of our 3x2mm crystal rondelles. I've kind of sorted out, I pulled out all the greens and the peach beads because we're not going to use those today. I'll save them for a different project. We are going to use both the light and dark purple, the gray, and kind of this peachy white color. And we're just going to string just a couple, probably like 4 or 5 inches of crystal beads. So we want it to be not quite as long as our strand. I'm going to kind of try to curve it the way I want it to hang. And I'm going to go across here. I want it to go down but not be as long as that strand. So all that to say, we're just going to string these mixed crystal beads on the strand. I'm going to start out with doing a clamshell bead tip and a crimp bead. And we're gonna just squish that crimp bead up. Give it a good pinch. Cut that wire. Come on. And then we'll pull, give it another squish just to make sure. Pull the bead tip up and over the crimp. I'll start to close it with my fingers. I'll finish closing it with my pliers. All right. Give that a good squeeze. And now we're going to start stringing. So I'm not going to do any particular pattern with these. I'm just probably going to alternate them. We'll start with the light purple. Maybe like alternate the purples with a gray or peach between them. Honestly, I'm just gonna do what makes me happy. I don't want it to be incredibly patterny, like you look at it and you're like, oh, I see exactly a pattern. But I also want it to look nice. I'm gonna do another light purple, but this time I'm going to do the dark purple immediately after it. Essentially, I'm just gonna do the 4, but I'm gonna alternate what order they're in and kind of try to mix it up so it's not exactly the same each time. And we are just going to keep on stringing these until we have, I probably want about an inch less or so. So if I go to about here, that'll probably be a good amount. If it comes, yeah, so I'm going to string it until it's about as long as that second to last bumpy bead on our first strand. That's going to be my goal. So we will do that.
I done did wrong and I knew I did.
But I did it anyway.
Because I got ADHD.
And I didn't want to redo it.
But here we are redoing it.
And we did it anyway. Yay! Yeah.
We should make jingles for our episodes.
We should. So that is about to that last bead there. Let's angle it up and see if that looks like it's going to be the length I'm looking for. Yeah, I think that'll work. I think it may actually be a little bit long. So let's see. I'm going to pull 2 beads off. See what we're looking at here. We've got, maybe we'll go to right below that metal bead. Yeah, I like that. I think that looks good. All right, we will give this a shot here. Gonna do another clamshell bead tip. And one thing to watch out for when you are finishing off these strands is not to pull too tight. You've got to have, these are going to be very curvy strands. You're going to have some room or it will break. Don't ask me how I know. And I'm going to go ahead and open this clamshell up like all the way flat so I have more room to play with it. All right. Again, this is going to be a curvy design. I'm going to pull it kind of into a circle to make sure it has enough room to play and hang the way that I want it to hang. I'm going to leave a tiny bit of space between the bottom of the clamshell and the last bead there. Just make sure we've got room to move and nothing is pushed up too close. That looks pretty good. You don't want a giant gap, but you want things to have enough room. All right, squish that really well here. Now I'm gonna cut off the extra and close it up. Okay. Start closing it with my fingers. I'm gonna finish it with my pliers. Here we go. Okay. All right, so now we're just gonna attach the strand we made to the crystal trees here. I'm just gonna use the 4mm jump rings again. I'm gonna open it up. I might use 2 pliers to close it because I'm not always good at closing them when I have a lot of items on them. So I'm just gonna go ahead and get my small pliers and grab this end. And now we will run it through the other side of the trunk. So the top part of the trunk here, or rather of the pendant. So this is the right side of the necklace, is going on the right side of the trunk. I'm sorry, the left side of the necklace. It's going on the right side of the trunk. Oh, getting my left and right mixed up there. All right, I'm just gonna close this up. And now we'll attach it on the other side as well. Okay. Probably could have just done that with my hands, but whatever. Here we go. All right. Okay, see how that hangs. Ooh, I like that. It's gonna look very pretty. You've got your deep amethyst strand on the bottom. You've got your light sparkly crystal strand on the top. Now, we're going to go up the sides. So we're gonna make 2 identical pieces that will each connect to half of our clasp. I'm gonna start with cutting another strand of wire. And I'm gonna do this one about 12 inches long, even though the segment itself won't be that long. I just like to have extra to work with. And I'm going to begin it just like we have with all of our other pieces. Just gonna stick a crimp bead and a bead tip on here as soon as I locate my crimp beads. What on earth did I do with those? They were right here. Oh, there they are. They were buried. All right, so clamshell on first, bead tip on second. We're gonna squish it real quick. Okay. Trim that down, and now we're gonna close the shell over it. Did not line that up very well, so let's squeeze it to line it up better. There we are. That's much better. All right. So for this segment, we are going to use the Malaysia Jade rounds. We're going to need about a dozen of these. So let's see, 4, 8. You give a couple extra ones just in case, you know, the colors vary a lot. You can pick which colors you like. So we will need these. Done with these crystals, so I will put them up for later. And we are going to need our rondelle beads. I'm going to go ahead and dump off some more of the strand because we are going to use a significant portion in this design. Here we go. We are also going to need our spacer beads, which I have thrown across the room there. There we go. And we're going to need just a couple of the bead caps. I'm probably only going to actually use 4 pieces, I think. I'll just do one in one of our 8mm beads and close it. Okay, so to start, I'm going to do a spacer bead, 8mm round, another spacer bead, a Malaysia Jade bead, and then a bead cap, another Malaysia Jade, and another bead cap. So let's go ahead and string that. And we will be doing 2 identical segments here, one for either side. And this is really a great part to make the necklace length your own. If you want a really long necklace or a shorter necklace, you can vary up what you do here. All right, so next, we're going to do another Malaysia Jade, and then another of the Mountain Jade surrounded by the barrels. And please excuse me if I mixed those up earlier. Malaysia, Mountain, both start with M. The difference, of course, being that Malaysia Jade is the trade name for this dyed quartz, and Mountain Jade is the trade name for a dyed dolomite marble. All right. So at this point, I'm going to kind of echo the pattern that we've got on our lower strand here. I'm going to start doing 5 of our small purple rondelles, and then a spacer bead, and then an 8mm dolomite round. And I'm going to repeat that pattern 3 times. So we'll get started. I find stringing very relaxing. It's just chill to sit and put beads on a wire. Except, of course, I tell you what, these 3x2mm crystal rondelles, they make my hands hurt. They're so tiny. When I was younger, I could string them all day. Now I need ibuprofen. All right. Yep, so just like that, we're gonna do this segment twice more. All right, now I am just going to do 5 more of our rondelles and then a spacer bead, and then we're going to finish this strand off. So here goes. And after that, we will attach it to the top of one of our tree charms. And then the other end, this end we're working on now, will attach to our clasp half. And again, if you want this necklace longer or shorter, a great way to do that is just add or subtract these segments here. You can like leave out one or add another one, whatever you want to do, however long you want yours to be. All right, open up that clamshell, string it on, get our crimp bead ready, and we will close this strand up. Once again, I like to kind of curl it to help it make sure all those beads have room to move if they want to. Okay. I'm gonna go, like, I'm not gonna pull it like incredibly tight, but I don't want to leave a ton of room either. So just a little room to fold that clamshell over. Cut this down. And then I'm going to squeeze that crimp bead one more time, just to make sure it's good and secure. All right. I maybe left a tiny bit more room than I had to, but we'll see once the clamshell is folded, because the clamshell does kind of push down a little bit onto your strand too. And I may be being a tiny bit overcautious, because I would rather have a little bit of play in beads than have it break. Yeah, I think that looks pretty good. Okay, so now we're going to take this 3 bead part and we're going to connect it right here, and I'm going to use my slightly larger 6mm jump rings for that. There we go. Yeah, and you can tell I did leave more space than I normally would like to. You won't be able to tell when I've got it on because it'll hang in the back, but just an FYI. It's a fine art, and some days I am more on my game than others. One tip that I like to do sometimes, if you need to fill a space, like if this play was really annoying me, is you can come back here, you can get one of those little C-shape crimp bead covers, and you can snap it on the strand right under this clamshell cover. So I may go back and do that just to fill up a little bit more of the strand and get rid of that extra space I left. Left a little more than I meant to. So that is an option if that happens to you. All right, so now all we're gonna do here is we're going to make another strand with exactly the same pattern as this strand. We're just gonna bead it again for the other side, and then we'll be ready to attach our clasp. So I'm gonna cut another piece of wire. I'm gonna get it started exactly the same way. And we will get it done. All right, so I finished off this strand and realized I didn't put the spacer bead at the end, but it's by the clasp. I'm not gonna worry about restringing it right now. I am just going to get my jump rings and attach it to either half of my magnetic clasp. And again, you can use any kind of clasp that you want for this. You can definitely use the one that comes with the box. I just really like magnetic clasps, so that's what I'm going to use. I'm going to grab my chain nose pliers here. They're nice and grippy. Use a 6mm jump ring to attach it to the top of that tree. Here's my jump ring tool. All right, let's see. Go. Come on. Closed it a little too tight. Perfect. All right. And now we'll do 4mm jump ring. I'm going to use my smaller pliers for this. And we will attach it to the clasp at the end. Grab my other pliers for this because the magnetic clasp is going to try to jump off here, which is kind of a pain. There we go. And now all that's left to do is attach the other side, and we are finished with this. Again, I'm probably going to go back and put a little C-shape crimp / knot cover. Just clamp it on the end there to take up some of that extra space I left on that other side. But of course, all my knot covers are on my desk at home. So I will be doing that later. Okay. All right, come on now. Didn't line up my holes great. There we are. I wanted to get that through the clasp. All right. Get this done here. All right, I want to show you this clasp. We call them super hold clasps, and we have them available, I think, in brass right now. We're getting some more in later, but I really like them because they're made so that if you pull on the sides, they don't come open. You have to put your finger in and pop this notch, and they're very well built. They've got a little notch on each side, or a little hook on each side, a little notch at either end, and they click together really nicely and hold really well. So they're some of my favorite clasps. We'll be getting a bunch more in a bunch of different colors. We've got our inner strand, which is made with crystals. We've got our outer strand here, made with the amethyst rondelles, and it goes up into a single strand. And I really like how, let me lay this out and move my pliers. I really like how the lilac here kind of pulls in all those different purple gray tones in the crystals. So yeah, this is our necklace. It's all done and ready to wear. Now, if you're a Bargain Bead Box member, you got this collection for $22.99. If you are not a member, we do have some extras available at our store website, beadboxbargains.com, while supplies last. You're going to pay a little more than a member would, but there's still a fantastic value for everything that's in it. You're still saving a lot of money. So feel free to check that out, and just thank you so much for being here and beading with me today. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe. We'll have some more fun tutorials and things coming up for you soon. And we're glad you're here. Thanks again for watching, and happy beading. Alright, I wanted to show you what I mean about the little crimp cover here. So I just ran to the local big box craft store down the road, and I picked up a pack. So we're gonna just stick it around here. Now let me tell you, Every time I go to a craft store, I'm reminded why we do what we do. They wanted $6 for 20 of these. That's just, to me, that's ridiculous. Maybe I'm just showing my age here, but yay, inflation. We need to get these back in stock so we can sell them for a reasonable price. My goodness. All right, now I'm done grumbling. I've got my wire in the middle of my crimp or knot cover here, and I'm just gonna gently close it with my pliers. Try to tuck that one end under the other, really gently. And now we've got basically another bead on our string. It fills that space up really nicely. You don't have a lot of bare string anymore, and it just solves that little problem right there. So that's what I do if I get my crimp bead too far away from my last bead. I'll just stick a little clamshell, or not clamshell, sorry, knot cover in there. So a little C-shaped knot cover. It'll fix it right up. And we are finished. It is ready to wear. I just want to show you that real quick. Thanks again for watching. We appreciate y'all. Bye.